3. Let's see here. All right, folks. Let's see what we got here. Oh, drinking Guinness tonight. It's my favorite beer. No, this is not a product placement, but that would be kind of cool. But today, well, what happened with the whole previous video thing, I recorded everything and I ended up not liking it. I didn't like the framing and everything, so I just decided to go ahead and redo it. I think I did like probably an hour of recording and I didn't like it, so here we are redoing it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to answer all of you guys' questions, and I'm going to start with Instagram first, because Instagram didn't have as many questions, and then I'm going to get to YouTube comments, because that's where all the most of the comments were, and then yeah, we're going to get your questions and answers done. So this is the first questions and answers video that I've done, and you guys have some really good questions, and now I'm going to answer them. Now, some of you guys, I just dropped my phone. That sucked. So, some of you all asked similar questions. So, some of these may overlap, but in essence, I'm going to answer all the questions. So, let's get started. Ooh, I'm glad I didn't break that. Guinness. All right. Let's see, Instagram. The first comment comes from AZ Tokes. You asked me, what is my dream bike? All right, so my dream bike is, I have a number of bikes that I like, but one bike that really stuck with me that I haven't really forgotten about since I've seen it and ridden it is the Ducati X Diavel. I got a chance to ride that bike when, right after the journalists got a chance to ride it, like Motor Magazine and all of them. They brought the bikes to Alpharetta, Georgia for a test ride, and I ended up finding out about it maybe 4 days before they had the event. So I got up at like 4 a.m. and drove about 3.5 hours just to test ride the bikes. Fell in love with it, been in love with it ever since, and since then I got another chance to ride it, and if that would be my dream bike. that's my dream bike. You also asked me what is my favorite place to ride and why. It kind of depends. Like, I like curvy roads, I like back roads, I like country roads, I like roads with very scenic routes. It kind of just depends on how I'm feeling and what my objective is at that point. If I need to get somewhere as quick as possible, of course I want to ride the interstate. But if I want scenic rides and stuff like that, I'm gonna look for the ocean rides with the beach in the view where I can ride the coastline and stuff like that. I actually have a video up like that where I rode that Victory right there. I don't know if you can see it on the coastline, where it's just sand on this side, and beach and water. It's just really awesome. I plan on taking that trip again, hopefully on either the Indian or the N109, and doing the whole drone thing with it. But preferably, I prefer scenic routes. And also, when I went to the Tail of the Dragon, that actually wasn't my favorite road that I rode, even though it was very scenic and curvy and everything. It was actually Cherry Hollow Skyway, because, you know, you're riding so high up above the Tail of the Dragon, you can see down and everything. And there's mountains with like big bodies of water, you know, flowing inside of the mountains and everything, and you can see that as you're riding. And then there's this one part when you're coming down this valley. It's like little houses, like cottages on the side of the road, and it's this big mountains for like 10 miles on both sides. It's really awesome. So if you get a chance to ride the Tail of the Dragon, definitely ride Cherry Hollow Skyway if you have the time. Steve Burke asked me, how do I record my audio? Okay, so I did a video on this about 3 or 4 videos back, but right now I'm using the Sony lavalier mic. This is what I'm using right now for off the bike stuff. And I also have an external recorder right here that's in my pocket, and I have a Video Roll Micro on top of this camera that's recording me now. As far as what's in my helmet, I have one of these also that also connects to the external recorder now. Previously, I used the Sena 10C, which has a camera built into it and it has a microphone built into it. So what I would do, I would have the GoPro and I would have the Sena 10C recording at the same time. I would cut the GoPro audio off in the editing software and add the Sena 10C audio on top. But now I just do the GoPro with the Sony lavalier mic inside my helmet. And the editing software that I use is Sony Vegas 15. Alex asked me, any plans to further modify the things on the Scout? Dyno tune, full exhaust, filter, intake, etc. What about cosmetics like the seat mirrors and bars? I'm thinking about changing out the seat. The seat isn't. It's not terrible for me for what I use the bike for, but when the biggest thing for me is when I throttle the bike under a load, I slide back on the seat, so I'm like sitting on the tip of the seat, and that's really uncomfortable, and I end up finding myself shifting a lot. So what I probably end up doing is get another seat. I do like the Solo seat. I've been looking at the Corbins, but more likely I'll probably go with the cosmetic look of it and get the Solo seat because I like that floating seat look. That's what really, that's one of the big things I liked about the Triumph Barber. As far as performance, I'm not really sure. I do have the N109 with a lot of power. I've had sports bikes before, but this bike is so light compared to my N109. It's like a 200-pound difference, and it has a lot of power for what it is. And honestly, I don't know if I want any more power out of it because it's already fast. Like for me, I'm only 25. I've already got several speeding tickets, and the last thing I want to do is get more speeding tickets. And I just feel like more power from what I'm already using this thing for would be just probably overkill for me. But for the sake of, I guess, doing it, I'll probably end up doing it. I don't know. Just we'll see. But right now, the Trask Slip-Ons make it sound good. The bike does run a little lean, so I may end up doing the tune at some point, but we'll see. I can't pronounce it, but he said, can I make a video racing the Harley Davidson Fat Bob 114 with the Indian? I would, but I don't have access to one. I have ridden the Fat Bob 114. It's a fantastic bike. But I tend to always find these. There is a guy that here has one. I think several people actually, but I'm never on the Indian when I see them, and they're always on the other side of the highway. But if somebody's in my area and they want to test the waters and see how that goes, let me know. All right, so that's all for Instagram. Now we're going to jump over to the YouTubes. Take a sip of this here, Guinness. Oh, man. I love it the way it's just, oh, man, it's at room temperature, too. Delicious. All right, so I'm going to start from the top. Steve Will Hope, please don't get upset if I chopped your name up. Steve said, you just signed the papers on my brand new Bronze Smoke Scout Barber last night. Fax and insurance over the day, picking it up tomorrow. Your videos on the whole process have helped me so much. Thanks a lot and ride on. That's what I'm talking about. I love to hear that. I'm glad that I can help. I'm just a regular guy just sharing my experience on this bike. I'm glad I can kind of, I guess, steer you towards Indian. Indian doesn't pay me, but hey, it's fun to, give my take on the bike. I'm glad I can help. And congratulations. Bernardo asked me, have I seen a lack of vlogs and videos on YouTube with the custom style motorcycles? Because I've never seen something like your channel in Brazil, neither in the United States. Yes and no. Basically what it comes down to, cruisers are not the major portion of YouTube. Like the mainstream YouTube with motor vlogs, you got Jake the Guard Snake, Do It With Dan, Chase on Two Wheels, Motornosity, Walterific. Those are younger guys, but they're into sports bikes. Do It With Dan has a Honda Magna, but he doesn't really do videos on it anymore. Well, as much anyway. His videos are centered around his Kawasaki H2 and his other bikes. Chase on Two Wheels is more into cinematics and adventure rides, and he does wreck bike rebuild. It would be cool if he does a cruiser piece. I think that would be really cool, but honestly, cruisers just aren't as hot as sports bikes. That's just how it is. But you got people like me, Dazzle Rebel. You got Shade Tree Surgeon. You got who else we got? Hold on. We got some other people that do videos. There's one guy that I watch. I forget his name. Hold on. There's Blockhead. Blockhead does videos. There's a number of people. Honestly, you just have to search for them. There's Sean Smoke. Please don't get upset if I chop that name up. Sean Smoke does a lot of stuff with India now. He works at a dealership, so he has access to a lot of different videos. But as far as custom stuff goes, I mean, custom motorcycles, all these channels really have custom stuff going, but I guess when you say converting a bike to a bobber, I haven't seen much of that. But most of the Build Series channels, they are doing sports bike stuff. But that's just kind of how it is. I think that's just the majority of the market. Oh, Adam Sandoval rides. That's his channel. He travels on a Harley. He had this goal where he wanted to go to every single Harley dealership in the country of the United States, and he's been you know, going over his entire experience with that, meeting all the different people, and his channel is really interesting. So there are channels you gotta search for them, but you know, it's just cruisers just aren't the mainstream on YouTube, unfortunately. At least, well, I'm not even gonna say that much. Just most people don't vlog their cruisers. At least they aren't as popular. Now, of course, there are plenty out there. I just don't know them all. There's plenty of YouTube channels. So if any of you know any more, link them in the comments so Bernardo can see them. Diego asked me, would I recommend the Barber as a first bike? I would recommend the Barber, any of the Scout line, I would recommend as a first bike. Of course, if you have the basics down, if you got your M endorsement on your license, because not only does that teach you the basics about riding, but it also gives you a decrease on your insurance premiums, and it also allows you to demo other bikes at demo events. Also with the safety course, I recommend that because of course you learn how to ride a bike, and of course you get decrease on your insurance, and it is a good way to learn the good habits of riding before you learn bad habits. Now for me, I didn't learn how to ride on a safety course, but later on in my biking career, I've taken safety courses twice, and let me just tell you, there's a lot. There's always more you can learn. So I do recommend the Barber as a first bike as long as you got the basics down. Ray Vaughn asked me which one would I suggest for a first bike between the Scout Barber and the N109. I'm gonna go with the Barber simply because the N109 is a lot of bike and it can be intimidating a lot because of its weight. It does have a lot of power, but I think the biggest thing is that weight that it has. And also, the N109 is not as forgiving as the Barber. Even though I've been riding the N109 for about 3 years now, there has been some times recently where that bike has gotten away from me. So I'm gonna have to go with the Barber. And plus, I think the Barber, there's a lot more refinement in the Barber. It's lighter, it's quicker. Well, it feels quicker, and I feel like you can have fun on it without doing too much. As far as the lean angle and everything, it's going to be about the same as the N109. But as far as like luggage capacity and traveling, you're probably going to go with the N109. And also, you could probably lean more towards the N109 if you're like 6'4" and up, because the N109 does have more space. But if I had to look at both on paper without knowing any of that for a first timer, I'm going to go with the Scout Barber. But the N109 is cheaper. You can get those on Craigslist for like half of what this costs. So Eric Rowe asked me, can I do a test ride on a Honda Shadow? Unfortunately, I hearted the comment. He said, what does that mean, you'll do it? No, I mean, I would, but I don't have access to a Shadow. However, I have ridden a Shadow years ago. Hondas are good bikes. Shadows are good bikes. Any cruiser that you get, like an M50, an M90, if it's a Japanese or metric cruiser, it's going to be a good bike. That's just all it is. So if it's a Yamaha, Kawasaki, it's going to be a good bike. And it's going to be reliable. If I ever come across one, I'll test ride one, but unfortunately, I just don't have access to one. Mitchell asked me, if I had to choose another bike to buy, what would it be? Okay, so currently, I have the N109 and I have the Scout Barber. Basically, these bikes serve the same purpose, except what? Beer break. Mouth got dry. Both of these bikes pretty much serve the same purpose. If I had to buy a bike right now, I would probably go, because I'm looking for a touring bike, something with bags on the side, something that still has a lot of grinding power, something that has a good lean angle, something that has all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth speakers and stuff like that. If I had to buy something, it would be the Moto Guzzi MGX21 Flying Fortress. If you don't know what that is, here's a picture of it. But this is the MGX21. I love this bike. It corners like is probably the best as a touring bike is going to get as far as cornering goes. It's made out of carbon fiber. Has red cylinder heads. Has red heads. And I think it has like 100 and something horsepower, 100 and something foot-pounds of torque. It has all the bells and whistles. It's just a really awesome bike. I would love to have one if I could get another bike. But unfortunately, with a Suzuki here, Barber, and 2 Victories, I don't have room for it. So, yeah, I would have to sell something, unfortunately. Neo asked me, do I live in a hurricane state, or is it just once or twice I get there? No, Alabama is a hurricane state. We're on the Gulf of Mexico. Hurricanes come up through there by Cuba, and Puerto Rico and all that, yeah, Hurricane State all the way. Dason asked me, he said, dude, you're making me want to get the Indian Scout Barber. Dude, absolutely, get the Barber, man. You think it's a great fit for you even though you're 5'10"? Yes, it is a great fit for you. Indian makes different handlebars, different seats, different foot pegs, different foot pegs, shifter, seat, and handlebars for people that are over 6 feet. So Indian makes the stuff for the bike. Do it. Jamar asked me, what's the real difference between the Indian Scout and the Scout Barber? I think the regular Scout has the same engine as the Indian Scout Barber. The Scout 60 does not. It has a smaller engine. Other than engine, and I can't remember if it's the same. I'm pretty sure it's the same though. The Scout Barber is just gonna look different. You may get one with or without ABS, but it's essentially the same bike. Oh, and the suspension. The suspension is gonna be slammed 1 inch lower than a regular Scout, so you're gonna have less suspension travel. And it's going to ride like crap. So there's that. It's going to ride a lot worse than the Scout. Daniel asked me, how tall am I? I am 5'10". Asked me, how do the foot controls feel for your height? They feel perfect if I'm not wearing boots. Depending on what shoe I wear / boot, the shifter it pushes me up a little bit. So it's not as comfortable, which is why you guys see me riding in shoes a lot. But when I'm going on long distance rides, maybe like more than 50 miles or outside of my city, I ride with boots. But my knee, when I'm riding, my knee is perfectly aligned with like right here where you can see Indian Scout. So I feel like 5'10" was the sweet spot when they designed this bike. And when my foot is here, I have, my foot rests about right here. But with a boot, oh, you can't see it, crap. I have about that much space in between the shifter and the top of my foot when I'm wearing shoes. When I'm wearing boots, it's not as comfortable and it raises my knees up a little bit more. So when I'm wearing shoes, it's fine. When I'm wearing boots, I have to be kind of conscious of what I wear because I feel like it raises me up a little bit too much. So most of the time it's fine. So 5'10", yeah, I have no issues with it. I'm not going to change them. So blah, blah, blah. Steven says, if you buy a Barber, it's not actually a Barber. Of course it's a Barber. It doesn't matter if you customize it yourself. It's a Barber. Has that chop fender, man. Come on, and that slam stance it's gonna ride like, oh, it even has the crappy seat. It's a Barber. Oli Mar asked me, did I ever consider a Harley over the Indian? Yes, I actually considered the Harley Fatbot 114. I got a quote for it. I didn't go through with getting any paperwork or anything because I wanted to kind of sleep on it because my quote included me trading in my N109. Now, my local Harley dealership was going to give me well above the average price for my N109, but I just didn't find the Fatbot 114 worth me not only spending the money for it, but also trading in my N109. I was very content with my N109. So what I ended up doing, I waited on it, ended up test riding the Indian, fell in love with the Scout Barber, found out that it was a lot cheaper than the Fat Bob, and I found that the performance for me was dang near the same, if not better than the Fat Bob. Now granted, it didn't have all the bells and whistles, nice suspension and all that kind of stuff, but for me, the Indian Scout did it. I just wasn't willing to pay that price for the Fatbot 114. I have a whole video on this, so go check it out. Victor said, dude, Montgomery, Alabama. Yes, I stay in Montgomery, Alabama. Jason said, do you think the price difference between the Scout 60 and the Barber is worth it? If you like the look of the Barber, I say yes, it's definitely worth it. I like the look of the Barber. I found that the Scout 60 was too kind of small for me. But then again, when I test rode that bike, it did have the short person kit on it, but I still felt like the chassis was kind of small on it. I don't know, it could be the exact same bike, but it just overall felt small to me. So yeah, I think the Scout Barber is worth the money. Also, thank you. You say you love my work. Love you too, Jason. BoobTube, you asked me, you had a lot of stuff, man. You asked me, when did I first start riding, what age, and how many bikes have you owned in your life? I first started officially riding when I was like 16. My uncle taught me on his Honda Shadow back in that was years ago. It was like 7, 8, 9 years ago. So I'm 25 now, so that was quite a bit. But I actually rode my first dirt bike, and my only dirt bike, I want to say, when I was in camp. And that actually went pretty well. I didn't whiskey throttle it, so I probably, compared to now, I probably would whiskey throttle it more if I were learning now. But I did really well back then. riding a dirt bike. But my first bike was a Suzuki M50, 2006. Bought it when I was 18, a couple years after I learned to ride. I sold the M50 and got an M109. Not that one, the one that you guys are used to seeing, the blue one with the white stripe. But something happened with the engine, and I ended up having to do an insurance claim on it. My insurance basically totaled the bike out, and they gave me the money to buy another one. And I bought one exactly like it, which is the one that you guys are used to seeing on the channel now. It just has a different VIN number. So same color, everything, just different VIN number. Then I ended up buying an FZ07. So this is bike number 3. I bought a 2015 FZ07 in 2016. And then I just keep hearing possums and stuff in trees around here. So if you guys see me looking around, that's what it is. I have to keep hearing stuff. I bought an FZ07, and I rode that for a while. Then I ended up finding a deal on Craigslist. I started trying to flip motorcycles. So this guy was selling this 2006 Suzuki. All right, my video stopped recording. I don't know where it stopped, but this guy, he was selling this 2006 GSXR, that's a tongue twister, GSXR 600 for $3,000. I talked him down for $2,500. So I bought the bike. The bike wasn't running, and basically I put like $500 into this bike. Had to get the fuel rail clean. It had a lot of trash in the tank. Bought a new tank for it, just enough to get this bike up and running and make it look good enough to sell. Sold it for $5,250, and I bought it for $2,500. Put a little $500 into it. So I sold that bike, and I regret selling it, because I really love that bike, but I had a plan in mind. I emptied my bank account to buy that bike, fixed it up, sold it, made a profit off of it. Then I sold it, and I bought a 2016 GSX S1000. And then I sold the FZ07. So let me see, M50, M109, FZ07, Jitzer, S1000. So we're on bike number 6. So I ended up totaling the S1000, unfortunately. And I ended up buying the Indian Scout Barber, which is what I have now. So that's 7 bikes. But before I even got the Indian, or right around the time after I bought the S1000, I tried to flip another motorcycle. So I bought a 2006 M109 that I found on Craigslist for $4,000. I talked the guy down to $3,000, and he didn't tell me that the M109 had second gear transmission failure. Essentially what was happening with that, when you go from first to second under a big load, like you're on the throttle a good little bit, the bike will automatically drop from second gear to neutral. So he didn't tell me about that, and that was a very expensive fix. Hey, little moth. It was about $2,000 to fix. So I ended up taking a loss on that because I didn't have the cash and the want to fix it. So I just sold it and got rid of it. So I took a loss on that, and now I got the Indian Scout Barber. So before I was 25, well, right after I was 25, which was last year, I turned 25, I've had a total of 8 bikes. So 8 bikes so far, and I plan to have many more. Tyrone said, I have what's up, man, with nothing but this tin roof right here right now and nothing but darkness. So he said, you have a M50 Barber up for sale. You really want a V-Rod, da-da-da-da. You looked at the Warrior. I did also. You say round about how many miles can you get on the tank on the Scout? It depends. If you're being friendly, you can get at least 100. So I say on average, I get about 100. But when you're being a little dirty, you can still get 100, when you're on it every now and then you go back to cruising and everything. So I say on average, you can get about 100, but I have gotten about 85, 90-ish before the gas light comes on, but I've never ridden the bike to E. But I do want to test that theory in an upcoming video, just see how far I can get on a single tank of gas. But faithfully, I can say I can get at least 100, but I'm sure it can get up in the 150s. That would mean this bike is getting about 50 to the tank with a 3.3 gallon tank. So I think it could do it, definitely. So yeah, around 100. Dan Lear said, how is the Barber with a passenger? Heard it's very bad suspension travel. Okay, so yeah, the Indian Scout Barber is garbage when it comes to suspension out of the box. It's just, but it wasn't meant to have good suspension. It was slammed. It's supposed to have the look. Everything about this bike was about the look versus the function in every single area. So Indian set this up where they kind of gave you what you needed, and they said, hey, if you want to go up a step above and get a little bit more quality out of this specific item, you can buy the upgrades. And that's what allowed you to get this bike at such a good deal, and then all of the Scout line. So as far as a passenger, I kind of look at this kind of how I look at sports bikes. It has a back seat. You can put a back seat on it, but was it entirely meant for that? No. So the function is there, but don't count on it to be really good. But it'll do it. But the suspension travel is already not as good as the regular Scout, since you have, it's lower than an inch. So yeah, don't expect for your significant other to be really pleased that they're on the back of an Indian Scout Barber. What else we got? David left a comment. David always leaves comments. He is faithful as far as leaving comments. You are faithful, my guy. Steve Smith asked me, have I ridden a Sportster 1200? No, I've never ridden a Sportster. The only Harleys I have ridden are the 114, Fat Bob, and Breakout. You said that one problem with you wanting to get the Indian because the closest Indian dealership is an hour away. My closest Indian dealership is an hour away, and I have not been back to that dealership since October when I bought the bike. So this bike doesn't require a lot. Just take care of it, and it'll take care of you. So, if you fancy doing oil changes yourself and doing a couple of inspections here and there, I'll say you do it. The distance really isn't that bad. Now, Triumph for me, on the other hand, is about 2.5 hours away. So, yeah. Upside Down Dog said they recommend the Indian Kenda tires versus the Michelin Commander 2s. No. They recommend changing the stock tires that are on here for the Michelin Commander 2s ASAP. Might have to look into that because they say that the Kendas don't last long. Jacob asked me why did I choose the Indian over the Triumph Barber. Essentially what that came down to, I said this in the previous video, and of course I'm going to leave a description, not a description, you're going to see you'll see the videos up, well, I don't know, somewhere up here. You'll see the little thing where the videos will pop up. I'm going to try to link all those videos up here somewhere so you guys can click on those if you want to. But essentially what it came down to, the Indian for me and my use was more practical. Even though I don't have a passenger seat on here, I don't want to remove that capability. The Triumph couldn't do that. The Triumph also didn't have as big of a tank as the Indian, and also my Triumph dealership was a lot further away. But I think the maintenance would have been just as about the same for the Triumph versus the Indian. And also it was the fact that you guys that at the time helped me decide Indian versus Triumph, because I was looking at getting one or the other. You guys helped me go with the Indian, so I picked the Indian. And I think both bikes are fantastic. I didn't tell you guys, I don't know if I did in the video or not, but I considered after buying the Indian going back and getting a Triumph, but I didn't have the space for it, so I didn't do it, because I was definitely thinking about calling up and getting another bike for and getting the Triumph Barber, but I just decided not to do it. But there was nothing as far as functional reasons, I guess, like not functional, but big reasons why. I'd say as far as me riding the Triumph, because I really wanted that bike. Like it just didn't feel practical to me. But as far as like riding it, putting around town, yeah, it'd been a great bike. But based on the bikes that I ride with, I can still ride the Indian with these bikes, and it didn't feel right me buying it, at least now, because I feel like it was a novelty bike kind of. I feel like this is an everyday bike, but to me the Triumph felt like a novelty bike, and I wasn't really ready for that yet. So that's one of the good reasons why I didn't go with it. But I do recommend it. At least test ride it, because I fell in love with the bike. That bike was amazing. That's another bike that has that left a lasting impression on me, was the Triumph Barber. And I have a demo of that too. Go check it out. Catherine Salvage asked me my gear. Why did I pick my gear? What's my jackets? All right, my jacket, Denese Airflux. My gloves are Highway Trigger 21 gloves. My helmet is an Arfa 10. When I had my accident on my 2016 S1000, I had a run-in with nature on the backcountry road. That bike was actually with me that night. I went down in that gear, actually. On the Denese jacket, I have some scrapes here, where it's basically ripped all the fabric. The pads held up. My Highway 21 trigger gloves, I went down in those. My helmet, I went down in that. All of that gear held up perfectly, and I still ride with that gear now. The only scratch that I had on me were my feet, my ankles. I had a swollen foot because I did not have my Denese boots on. So my gear held up really well. I recommend Denese gear. Biggest reason I picked Denese biggest reason I picked Denese, not because of me knowing that it would save me in an accident, but it was because it fits me. I have a slim build. Some jackets feel very bulky on me. I like my stuff to fit like it's a shirt, and Denese fits me like that. And the Highway Trigger gloves, I wanted that very Cafe Racer Rolling Sands look, and their products are really affordable, and they look good, and they're actually made out of really good materials. The Arfa 10, I just got a really good deal on it. My local dealership was selling it for like $450 or something. I went on Red and got it for $200. So there's that. And it works with my YouTube gear. Rocket says, how is maintenance? I feel like I would turn into ash if I had to change the spark plug or something and turn on that thing. I don't think maintenance on this bike will be that big of a deal, because once you take this tank off and this seat, you're pretty much at the entire bike. Compared to the M109, you got like the tail end, the tank, the side panels, the radiator cover, the headlight. There's a lot to do with that bike over there. The radiator shroud, all of that just to get to the, you have to take the radiator shroud off just to get to the exhaust, and you got to take the side panels off just to get to the radiator shroud. So there's a lot more involved on the M109 like other bikes. For me, I feel like this bike wouldn't be that big of a deal. It hasn't given me any issues right now so far. I do have to do the 1,500 mile servicing on it. The reason I haven't done it right now is because I just been lazy. So I got to do that, and you guys will see a video of that coming up. But honestly, I don't think the maintenance on it would be that bad, which is why I didn't get a maintenance plan. I felt like I could do the things that at least up to the valve servicing. I don't think I'll do the valve servicing. I'll take it back to Indian to do that. But that's like 15,000 or 20,000 miles before that even becomes a factor. So I'm not a mechanic, but I can turn a wrench. I can torque things down. I know the basics, and I feel like I can do everything up until that point. So as far as I'm concerned, the maintenance on it is not that big of a deal. And I think you could do it too. Just read the manual. Timmy, any issues with the bikes or regrets not buying something else? How about a typical 5 likes and dislikes video? I can do that. I'll do that coming up. Any issues with the bike? Regrets? No issues. Somebody else asked me something similar to that. I don't know what the question is. They basically asked me, has it been reliable? Yeah. Any gremlins? You asked me that, Charlie. The bike hasn't given me any gremlins other than the hard start. Uh-oh, that's Guinness coming up. Actually, let's knock some more down. Delicious. I haven't had any issues with it, but other than the cold start. Basically, what happens is when it's kind of cold out, the bike is a little hard to start. It tries to turn over and it just doesn't. So what ends up happening, the bike coughs. So the bike is running a little lean from the factory anyway. Now change the exhaust out, change the back pressure. All the airflow is different. So I don't know. Actually, I don't know if the airflow, I don't know if the hard start was before or after I changed the exhaust, because I did buy this bike right at the end of fall. So I don't really know if the Trask had anything to do with that. But the way I fixed that, when it's trying to turn over and the bike's like, when it does that, I give it a little gas, just a little bit, and it dumps fuel in the chambers, gets it going. No, not that big of a deal. But other than that, I haven't had any issues out of the bike. No electrical issues, no weird noises or anything. The bike is solid. If I could get a second bike, which one would be a why? Well, I already have a second bike, Ruben. I already have one. It's N109. But if I could get another bike, I would get a touring bike, which would be the MGX21. Or I would get an XD Evo, or I might get a Triumph. So one of those three. Charlie, I just answered you. Blah, 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 blah. Dean Cavero asked me, would the Indian Scout Barber be a first good bike? You love the look of my bike and you would be willing to buy something used with a similar look but would like some advice. If you don't get the Indian Scout Barber, go look at the Victory Octanes. It is the exact same bike. Just looks different, made by Victory. They basically took everything from that bike and put it in this bike. That's all they did. And you can get Victory Octanes for like $7,000. So that's like the price of an N109. So if you're not looking at this, get the Victory Octane. It has the same amount of power. Actually, it has more torque than this bike does. A little bit more torque. Really good looking bike. My two people here, they got Victories. So yeah, Victories. They're still valuable. So if I recommend the Scout Barber, I would recommend the Octane. It's the exact same bike. So that answers your question, I hope. Dazzle Rebel said, really, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, to boldly go where many have gone and answer the age-old question, Star Wars or Star Trek, and what character would I be? Totally unrelated to motorcycle, but hey, ask anything. Yes, I said ask anything, so I'm going to answer the question. So I didn't really grow up with Star Wars or Star Trek, but as I got older, I got exposed more to Star Wars than I did Star Trek. So if I had to pick anybody, I would be, let me take my drink first, hold on. Lando Calrissian. simply because he is smooth, he is suave, and when he walks in a room, he doesn't demand attention, he just gets it. Yes, Lando Calrissian. Gore asked me, would you like to see Indian begin focusing on branching out from cruisers beyond the flat track 1200? Absolutely. This is going to be a good question. This is a really good question. You and Charlie and Dazzle Rebel talked a little bit about it. Charlie said he wanted to see a standard bike. Harley Davidson owned Buell. They basically canned it because it really wasn't selling. He said if anyone were to make a standard seating bike with somewhere around 100 horses and ideally less than 600 pounds, zippy, like lean angle, nothing balls out, super sport, he'd be all over that. I agree. It's kind of like the Ducati Scrambler, good lean angle, still has the performance. What else we got? There are a bunch of other standard bikes. I can't think of them off the top of my head. It's late at night. But yes, I agree with that. I would like to see Indian do a standard bike. I think the flat track sits standard, but it's not the Scout platform is so versatile. This engine is so awesome that they can do so much with it. They can pretty much put it in many different chassis. So I think a standard bike would be really cool. But as far as branching out from cruisers, I want to go on the ambitious side and say that I would like to see Indian do something in the electric space. And I'm all for electric and I'm all for ICE engines, internal combustion engines. I love my V-twins, but Harley Davidson came out with the Project Livewire a couple years ago. And now they're talking about making it a production motorcycle next year. Then you got Zero motorcycles out there in California. I think that Indians should stir the pot up, make some noise. Come on, Possum, seriously? Stir the pot up. Possums like to climb in the trees around here. I want to see Indian make some noise with the same way they did with the Indian Sky Barber, the same way they did with the flat track. They create that demand. People want the flat track. People want that bike, and they're not making it. Like, I'm sure they're going to eventually make it. They're probably trying to get it, it's a prototype, or rather it's pretty much it's a prototype. So they're basically trying to, see how it's going to look with mirrors. You got to add, blinkers to it. You got to add the license plate mounts, reflectors. There's a lot of stuff you got to do with that kind of stuff. But for me, I want to see them make noise with an electric bike. I want to see them compete with Harley on the Project Livewire, because you got people that are into the high-end electric space, because the electrics is still expensive. You got Teslas, people buying Teslas. You got people like millennials willing to spend that extra money to be able to get into that scene. And also people want to get into motorcycles, and people might actually be more open to riding an electric bike because it may come off as less intimidating. But to us, we know that those bikes come with instant torque, instant horsepower, all that kind of stuff, no matter what range you're in on the bike because they're electric. But they may come off as less intimidating and may actually get more people into riding, because you see a lot of people riding scooters more so than they ride motorcycles because they're afraid of it. But I think that Indians should probably do that. Now, if you didn't know, Victory actually had a electric motorcycle. They had a super bike that was actually raced in the Isle of Man, and I can't remember if they won or not, but I'm pretty sure they won the year that they raced it in. And they also actually ended up setting a lap record. And they also had a standard SID electric motorcycle known as the Impulse TT. So when you get a minute, go look it up. It's still on their website. It's the 2016 Victory Impulse. You type it in on Google, it'll come up. But Victory has already been in the electric space. So I think that Polaris should take that DNA, that Victory, of course, when they put it all in, they're already taking Victory DNA from the Magnums and putting it into the Chieftains. I don't see why they can't do the same thing with electric. I think that would really put Indian, not, of course, on the map, but it would create a lot of buzz that I think a lot of people would be interested in. And I think it's really forward thinking. Penn asked me, what exhaust do I have? I have the Trask Slip-On exhaust. You can go look up my review on that. Somewhere up here, you'll see it. Joe Davis asked me, Barber mirrors in the down position useless. Any tips or hints to get them functional, especially the right side? Is that why I have mine? No, I have mine this way mostly because if I turn them to the downside, there's a possibility of them hitting the tank, and I move my bike a lot when I'm off of it, like where I cut it where the wheel is like cocked and the bike is leaning really, really low, and I really don't want to risk damaging the tank. But people have made this work where they put washers in between. Basically, they put more washers to fill out that gap, so it's possible to get them. And the mirrors, I love these mirrors. They are the best mirrors, I think, out of the 8 motorcycles that I've owned. These are the best mirrors that I've had. The solid construction, the mirrors, the glass is really precise and not cheap looking. Everything on the mirrors are really good. and they're made out of really good solid metal. So if I were to change the mirrors out, I would get some that would, instead of sitting down, they would flare out, possibly. And they would make the bike wider, but I think that I would probably do that if I were to change the mirrors out. Vintage and Custom Motorcycles asked me, are the Scout Barber tires looking good, right? Yep, the front wheel looks fantastic. There are kits on the M109 to actually give it a fat front wheel. You know, they do that with the Indian Scout Barber. It already has one. You said, but are the tires good for riding? Is the grip good? Yes, I think the grip's really good. I do wish that the back tire was a little bit bigger. I am a sucker for at least 180, 200 rear tires. My M109 has a 250. I don't think the Barber needs that, but I do wish they added a bigger tire on the back. The front, and I think the front and the back are actually the same size, but that back just looks tiny. I don't know if it's just a different, I don't know the proper term, but the shape of the tire or something, but the tires look the same. I mean, I think they're very close, but they just appear different. The front one just appears really big, but no, the grip is good. The grip is really good. I just wish it was a little bit bigger. Paul Asher asked me, do I have any issues with the seat? Yeah. After 40 minutes, my butt hurt, so I ordered a Corbin. Yeah, you did really good ordering the Corbin. It's going to be one of the best seats you can get. But for me, it doesn't really bother my butt going numb. I'm used to the numbness of many different bikes, riding and test riding bikes. But for me, it's more so when I throttle down, like I said earlier, and I slide back on the seat. I don't like that too much. So what I might end up doing again is probably getting a solo seat. Hey, if anybody want to send me a seat, though, hit me up in those DMs. I'm available. I'm listening. Also passenger stuff. Yo, hit me up. Hit me up. I can do a good review for you. All right, Shabir asked me, please make a tribute on the Barber. Man, every video is a tribute on the Barber. I'm making a tribute to the Barber now. So there's that. But that is all of the questions. This one was really good. I wasn't expecting to get this many comments or questions, but I want to thank all of y'all for asking the questions, and I hope that my answers were good enough. But I'm about to go inside because it's 11:32. So until next time, guys, I want to thank y'all for watching. See y'all in the next one. Peace out.